an old longship in the bay. Their father gone and nothing left but sea. They drew the lots to choose who'd go which way, and what each one's inheritance would be. The eldest took the north and built a hall. The middle took the east and found a trade. The youngest took the west past every fall of water off the world's own final cascade. Three brothers split the compass into three and made the world as wide as it could be. The eldest built the strongest hall of stone. He married and he farmed and filled the land. He never needed anything on loan, and kept the home fire burning as he planned. His children learned the language of the soil, the patience of the seed and frost and thaw. They found their honor in the daily toil and needed nothing further in their law. The eldest son gives root to everything, the hall that lets the other brothers sing. The middle brother found the amber root. The eastern market's hungry for the north. He traded furs and walrus ivory out, and brought the silver pouring ever forth. He built a city at the river's bend, where north and east and south and west could meet, where strangers found a welcome without end, and commerce made the separate nations greet. The middle brother builds the meeting place, where every different world can find its grace. The youngest sailed until he found the land that no Norse boot had ever touched before. He planted his carved post on virgin sand and looked back east toward everything in store. He built no hall, he planted no firm root. He mapped the coast and sailed the rivers through. He found the limits of the world's pursuit and marked them for the ones who'd come anew. The youngest brother finds the farthest shore and leaves it open for all those in store. The three old brothers met at 45, back transformed from who they'd been that dawn. They did not know each other anymore, but found beneath the strangeness something sane, the shape of their old father in the core, the same blood carrying a different name. The three who split the world apart at last come home to find the world is not that vast. They planned her marriage at the feast of spring, a union with the chieftain of the West, to seal the alliance, calm the suffering, and bring the two great clans into their rest. She listened to the plans with quiet eyes. She ate her bread and said not one wrong word. Then in the morning under open skies, she took a horse and rode without a word. The Jarl's daughter makes her own accord. Her silence was her last and final word. She rode 3 days to reach the forest edge, where an old vulva kept her smoky home. She made her case and took the woman's pledge to learn the satyr arts beyond the wall. The vulva saw in her what she had seen, in every woman driven to the art, the hunger for a life between that could not be fulfilled by any part. The vulva takes the ones the world has lost and shows them what their freedom truly cost. Her father raged for half a winter long. He sent 3 men who came back without word. He cursed her name in every battle song, then fell to silence deeper than absurd. The chieftain of the West sent back his rings and found another bride before the snow. The alliance fell apart in smaller things, and nobody remembered the long ago. The crisis that a daughter's choice creates resolves itself before the summer fades. She came back in the 7th year alone, with sight and knowledge carved behind her eyes. Her father older, softer, more and grown into the man beyond the job disguise. He met her at the gate without a guard, just him and her and winter's morning light. He said, I should have listened at the start. She said, you're listening now, and that's alright. The father who can change deserves the child who comes back from the forest wise and wild. She became the village's most needed voice, the one they brought their sicknesses and fears, the one who helped the young ones make their choice and dried the stubborn, unexplained tears. She never married, never felt the lack. She built her hall beside her father's gate, and when he died she carried all the black of grief and love in equal honest weight. The Jarl's daughter found what she was for, not alliance, but the art the old held more. Before the compass found its iron north, we steered by what the sky had always given. The Great Bear wheeling slowly back and forth, the axis point by which the stars were driven. The pole star at the bear's tail held its ground, while every other star around it turned. The one fixed point in all the sky we found, the constant light for which the sailor yearned. The Great Bear guards the north for those who sail, a lantern hung where light will never fail. My father showed me first on a clear night. He lifted me above his shoulders height and pointed to the 7 points of bright that formed the ladle pouring endless light. He said, wherever you are in the world, however lost, however far from here, find the Great Bear with its tail unfurled, and home is in the direction you can steer. The Great Bear is the father's gift to sons, a way home carved in 7-star bright ones. We navigated by the shadow stick, by way of direction and the color deep, by birds that told us land was coming quick, by clouds that hung above the island sleep. But always in the night we looked above and found the bear to confirm where we stood. That steady northern light we learned to love, that never moved, however wild the mood. The sailor who knows stars needs no chart. The sky itself is navigation's art. The barren sky is also barren myth. A woman turned to stars by jealous gods. She circles heaven like a living pith, a mother watching through eternal laws. Her son is near her, small, a bear beside. They circle round the North Star through the age. Together in the sky they wheel and ride, a family frozen on a starlit page. The mother bear watches over those below and guides the lost through dark and storm and snow. Now teach the young to find the bear at night, before you teach them anything of maps. Show them first the oldest, truest light that fills in all the navigating gaps. For charts grow old and compasses can rust, and instruments are lost to sea and age. But stars remain, and in their light we trust, the same as those who read the same sky's page. The great bear north is older than all lore, and guides us as it guided those before. They say on certain nights, when fog sits low, the harbor fills with ships that have no crews. The lanterns burning with a greenish glow that neither fades nor brightens with the views. The fishermen who see them will not speak until the morning clears the harbor clean. For naming what you saw would only seek to anchor you to what should not be seen. The harbor of the dead fills once a year, on the night when veil grows thin and clear. My grandfather had sailed on one of those, a ship that left one autumn never came. The sea gave nothing back but rumors close of wreckage and a coast with no clear name. But 'But on the night the harbor fills with gray, and guides us as it guided those before. The harbor of the dead fills once a year, on the night when veil grows thin and clear. My grandfather had sailed on one of those, a ship that left one autumn never came. The sea gave nothing back but rumors close of wreckage and a coast with no clear name. But on the night the harbor my grandmother would walk down to the dock. She never spoke of what she saw or say, but came back in the morning round the clock. The harbor ghost is someone's missing man, come back to say he's safe as spirits can. The ships that come back are not what they were. They carry something of the deep inside. The wood seems darker, wetted like a blur. The sail's more gray than any living tide. The ghost ship does not moan or rattle chains. It simply sits with quiet dignity, as if it came to settle its remains and show the living what its end might be. The ghost ship asked for nothing but a glance, a recognition of its final dance. The harbor master who respects the night will leave a lantern burning on the pier, will not disturb the green and spectral light, will not make noise or let the living near. By morning every ghost has gone again, the harbor empty, smelling just of tide, and something feels resolved among the men, as if the dead had placed their grief inside. Respect the harbor ghost for what it was, a sailor lost to dark and ancient cause. I leave a lantern burning on my dock, not just for those who sail toward my shore, but for the ones that time has put to luck, who need a light to find their way. Once more, the living and the dead share the same sea, the same cold stars above the same black wave. The ghost ship and my longship, you and me, are separated by a single grave. The harbor of the dead is next to ours, divided only by the morning hours. The dwarves made Frey a golden boar to ride. Its bristles shone like sunlight through the dark. It ran so fast no shadow could reside between its hooves and anything it sparked. Gullen bursting, golden bristled one, who could outrun the horse and ship and wind, whose golden glow replaced the absent sun and lit the winter world from end to end. Frey's golden boar outshines the longest night. Its bristles are the winter fastest light. At Yule we carved the boar from oak and pine. We placed it on the table as the sign of Frey's promise that the sun would shine again beyond the winter's frozen shrine. We swore our oaths upon the boar's carved snout, the promises we'd keep through coming year. The feuds we'd end, the grudges we'd toss out, the loves we'd honor without doubt or fear. The Yule boar holds the oaths of every heart, a golden witness to the new year's start. Frey himself is all the warmth we need, the god of sun and rain and growing grain, who gives the field its willingness to seed and brings the spring back after winter's pain. He gave away his magic sword for love, and armed with only antler for the end, he faces searcher when skies fall from above, with nothing but the courage he can spend. Frey loses his sword for love's own sake, and fights the last great battle for love's wake. The boar hunt was the autumn's greatest feast. We drove the great ones from the forest floor. We honored what we took, man joined to beast, in the oldest partnership of gore. The boar was Frey made physical and real, a walking golden promise in the wood. To take it was to take part in the deal between the world that lives and flesh and blood. The hunter honors what his arrow takes, and Frey accepts the sacrifice it makes. The golden boar runs still in winter sky. If you look hard, the stars form out its shape, a constellation wheeling cold and high, that farmers used to plant the spring's escape. When Gullinbursty rises in the east, it means the worst of winter's breaking soon, that Frey is sending forward his gold beast to drive the darkness back beneath the moon. The golden boar runs ahead of spring, its bristles all the light and hope they bring. sailed, who swung the axe and crossed the winter sea. But rarely of the women who prevailed in keeping every other part of free. The women of the north are oak and stone. They hold what men have left in reckless hands. They never rage against the cold alone, but work and build and take their rightful stands. The Viking woman stands as tall as war. She simply fights a different battle for. She managed all the silver and the grain. She settled the disputes among the kin. She doctored those in fever's darkest pain. She guided what came out and what came in. When raiders came while husbands were at sea, she organized the village in defense. She told the children where to hide and free herself to face the threat without pretense. The woman who defends the hall alone is fiercer than any man she's ever known. She read the stars to tell the planting time. She read the clouds to know the coming storm. She read the children's faces for each sign of sickness growing past the daily norm. The knowledge that the North depended on was carried in the women's patient hands, past mother to daughter, on and on, across the generations' shifting sands. The women hold the knowledge of the North and pass it on to prove their children's worth. When men returned with silver wounds and pride, the women fed them, cleaned them, heard the tales. They did not say the things they'd done beside, the small heroics of the smaller scales. The child kept warm through fever, the hall saved. The neighbor's grief held gently through the year. The future planned while present storms were braved. The thousand quiet victories no one would hear. The quiet heroism feeds the loud. The woman's work makes possible the crowd. Write them in the saga name by name, the mothers, daughters, sisters of the North. Give them the verse beside the warrior's claim, for equal is their courage and their worth. Gudrun, who held the hall through 7 storms, Astrid, who healed the wounded and the weak, Ragnhild, who defied the old bad norms and took the sword when men refused to speak. The women of the North are half the story, and wholly deserving of their share of glory. Sees the battlefield entire, from heights no human warrior can claim. It sees who falls and who will feed the fire before the first sword stroke has even came. We learn to look for ravens overhead when scouting out a coast we'd never seen, where ravens circle something waits, it's said, either feast or warning in between. The raven's eye shows what the earth conceals, the wider view that distance always reveals. Odin chose them as his eyes for cause, for ravens see both yesterday and now. They understand the world without the laws that human minds impose on how and how. Hugin thought above the battlefield, and Munin carried memory complete. Together they became the perfect shield of information at the All-Father's feet. Thought and memory together make the sage. The raven teaches wisdom of the age. We trained ourselves to think like ravens think, to see the battle from the air above, to follow every chain and every link, from cause to outcome in the push and shove. The Jarl who climbs the hill before the fight, to see the land from Raven's point of view, understands the morning battle's light before his men have any clue. The raven's eye is strategy itself. The view from height is worth all battle's wealth. The raven watched our village from the elm for 17 years without a break or miss. It knew each face inside each household realm, and greeted each by name with morning hiss. We fed it from the table's edge each day, a piece of bread, a scrap of salted fish, and it gave back in its own raven way, a cry to warn of strangers on the dish. The raven is the village's own eye, that watches from the elm against the sky. When you are lost lost inside the close and small. When every tree looks exactly like the next, when you cannot find the pattern in the sprawl, when you are tangled in the thicket's vex, climb the tallest thing that you can find and take the raven's view above the ground. Let the wider landscape clear your mind and show you what below could not be found. The raven's eye is always looking down from above the battlefield, above the town. 7 years I sailed from shore to shore. 7 winters I slept under foreign stars. 7 summers I found more and more that home was in the old familiar scars. Not the scars of battle, though I wore them, but the scar of the fjord below the hill, the scar of the shore where morning storms tore them, the skyline that a childhood memory fills. The wanderer carries home inside his chest and knows it only when he needs it best. I did not recognize the village first. New buildings stood where empty fields had been. The children small, when I had left, now burst into full-grown strangers I had never seen. The old dog sniffed me from a distance long, then walked across the yard without a rush, and put his gray muzzle where it belonged, against my hand with no dramatic fuss. The dog remembered when the village changed. The wanderer's scent is never rearranged. My mother had not aged the way I feared. She'd hardened like a blade kept in good care. The softness gone, the granite edge appeared. The woman she had always carried there. She did not weep or make a great display. She looked at me the way a jawl reviews a warrior back from an extended day, and said, "You're thin. Sit down, I'll warm your stews." The Viking mother greets you without drama. Her love is in the food and not the clamor. The hall was smaller than my memory made, the ceiling lower than I'd always thought, the fire less impressive, more afraid than all the fires I had since been taught. But sitting by it with the people known, the smell of pine smoke soaking in the wood, I felt the wandering weight I'd always shown dissolve into something simple, old and good. The wanderer discovers on return the fire he sought abroad already burned. I'll sail again, I know it in my blood. The fjord will call when winter breaks to spring. The restlessness will rise up from the mud, and I will follow what the long ships bring. But every voyage out is better made by knowing there is somewhere worth return, by having something that will never fade, a fire kept for you, a hearth that will burn. The wanderer is richer for the home, it gives him reason both to leave and roam. They brought her to the village every year, the Volvo with the sightless silver eyes. She'd sit inside the high seat without fear and speak the truth that no one else could prize. She did not choose her gift, it chose the girl. The fever took her sight when she was 3, but left behind a window to the swirl of everything that was and yet would be. The vulva sees what no eye can contain, the hidden root beneath the visible plane. Up she sang the Galdra songs that called the dead, that opened up the space between the worlds, that let the voices of the lost be led into the hall before the darkness curls. The women's chorus held her while she sat, their voices like a rope across the void. She leaned into the nothing more than that, and came back changed, but never quite destroyed. The seer walks the edge between two worlds and speaks speaks from where the dark and daylight hurl. She told the Jarl his daughter would not sail, that she was meant for something closer deep. He argued, but she held him past the whale and said, some futures must be let to keep. The daughter stayed, and in the second year a plague came through that took the coastal town. Every ship that sailed was caught in sheer disaster, and the sea swallowed them down. The blind seer's warning saves what pride destroys. Her darkness protects more than all the noise. They paid her well in silver and in furs, in amber beads and cloth of Eastern dye, in mead and meat and everything that stirs the gratitude of those who wonder why. But what she truly wanted was the song, the chorus of the women raised in dark, the voices that would carry her along, the human sound that kept her like a spark. The seer lives on music more than bread. The chorus keeps the seer from the dead. When she at last lay down to leave this world, she smiled and said the vision's finally cleared, that everything that had been tightly furled became a simple truth that she had feared. She said the future holds the same as now, the love, the fire, the grief, the bread, the sea. And those who live must learn to take the vow of being here as fully as can be. The blind seer's final vision was the now, and she showed us all exactly how. In the harbor mouth at night, the great gray stone on rope of twisted hem, it caught the seabed in the darkness right, and held the ship against the current's tempt. Without the anchor, everything moves on. The ship without a hold is current slave. It ends up somewhere other than the drawn intention of the course the helmsman gave. The anchor stone is what keeps us in place, the weight beneath that holds us to our space. same. From harbor into harbor, lost his course. He cannot hold his direction or his name. Against the current's unrelenting force, his anchor is the people that he loves. The promises he made and chose to keep, the values underneath the surface shoves, the things he holds to in the restless sleep. The anchor is the weight we choose to bear, the heaviness that keeps us somewhere there. Too heavy an anchor and the ship can't sail. The man too rooted never sees the tide. He holds so tight the ropes begin to flail, and everything he feared to lose has died. The balance is the art that none can teach. To hold enough to know your harbor well, but keep the anchor short enough to reach the deeper water, where the brave ones dwell. Anchor deep enough to hold but not to bind. The chain that's right is hard and long to find. We made our anchors from the hardest stone, the granite pulled from cliff face at the shore. We shaped them with a knowing hand alone, and trusted them with everything and more. Each ship had three, for one would always fail. The hemp would rot or stone would split on rock. The backup anchor was the final tale between the drift and the secure dock. The wise man keeps three anchors for the dark, for when one fails, the others hold the mark. In the storm, when everything is motion, when sky and sea become the same gray wall, when faith is just the heart's own small devotion, and everything around seems set to fall, the anchor holds below the sight of men, invisible but present in the deep. It will not let the ship go out again, past the harbor mouth into the steep. The anchor stone holds truest in the storm. It is the cold below that keeps us